Of Miami family, some dear friends that I see of this program for many, many years, our coaches who are always here every single day trying to make this program what it is, our staff, our dear Golden Canes who have sacrificed so much over the years for this great program, to this historic day in University of Miami football. We are here to introduce a new head football coach at the University of Miami. And my friends, when you look at the road to this destination that this man and his wife and his family took, you will realize what I realized, that it will be one of the greatest stories in all of college football. A road that included a family's commitment, sacrifice, and teamwork. And we are here today to start a new era in University of Miami football. At this time, I would also like to thank Mark and Catherine Richt for 3 seasons of leadership, guidance, and love for the University of Miami. The president of our University of Miami, Julio Frank, and our board of trustees provide this university with the best leadership and counsel in America. And their #1 concern every single day is this great university and all of its students. Representing our board of trustees today is a gentleman who has served since 2004. He currently chairs the Intercollegiate Athletics Advisory Committee. He is a University of Miami graduate. He and his wife, Jody, are longtime supporters of the University of Miami. Please welcome David Epstein.
Thank you. Thank you, Don. Good morning to everybody and Happy New Year. It's nice to see everybody here, including Manny's family seated up here in the front row, and we're a very special day today. I, too, would like to just thank a couple of people. First, President Frank, who has been fully supportive and incredible during this entire process, who is out of the country today, but has been truly terrific during this whole, what seems like more than a few days, but I guess it's been a few days only. So I would like to make sure we acknowledge President Frank. Also, our Chief Operating Officer, Jackie Travisano, who's here today, who's been terrific as we've been bothering her endlessly over the last few days. Chairman Fain, Vice Chairwoman Hillary Bass, who's here with us, who's been very instrumental over the last few days as well. Deputy AD Jen Strawley, who's in the room, I know. And really the entire athletics organization and the university communications group with Rudy and Jackie been terrific. Really gave up the last few days to get through all of this. But in particular, our AD Blake James, who along with the team worked tirelessly these past few days to make sure and manage this process, yielding really an outstanding result. I, too, Don, would like to recognize Coach Richt. You know, he's last season's NCAA Coach of the Year. Mark has selflessly spent the past several years guiding our program, has accomplished many significant things, including putting back in the national conversation, helping improve our facilities through the Carol Sofer Indoor Practice Facility. Not only was his leadership and his vision, but he and Catherine donated a significant amount of their resources and money as well. And importantly, one of his contributions to this university has been the effect he's had on bringing terrific young student athletes to Coral Gables. And so he's a very special person, and while he has opted to pass the baton, we know that his heart will never be very far from Canes Nation, and we owe Mark a sincere debt of gratitude. So this past weekend, as Mark's decision to retire became known to us, we knew that we had a very important mission to bring in the next great head coach. And while I don't think it's necessary to get into the details of the process, Blake, with the support of President Frank, our board, and myself, were committed to a process to identify all potential candidates. There was no question that we felt very strongly that our first conversation needed to be with Manny Diaz, not even knowing if it was a possibility that we could have a chance at him, I'll say, coming back to be our leader. As time and discussions unfolded, every person involved, including President Frank and our trustee leadership, grew more excited that seeing Manny come back and take over the reins was a real possibility, and we moved quickly. My experience in these type of situations or these processes tells me that each search is unique and oftentimes quite unpredictable. One might say that in this case, the stars aligned and we have in Coach Diaz exactly what we need and exactly what we wished for. Manny Diaz is a homegrown Miami native, a lifelong Orange and Green family member. Already in his still young career, he has a long list of coaching accomplishments and has built one of the best defenses in the country while at University of Miami. Notably, he brought the turnover chain to Coral Gables. Most of the country recognizes the turnover chain for a great defensive play, but it's much more than that. And Manny knows that better than anyone. It represents passion, commitment, and endurance. It's not about one play or one person. It's about the team. It's about playing with fire and undying resilience and loyalty to each other. True core values. I am proud to welcome back Manny Diaz to the U as our new football head coach. So I would like to introduce Blake James, who really doesn't need much of an introduction, our athletic director. Blake is a proven leader, probably a little tired this morning. His thoughtfulness towards this entire UM community, including students, coaches, and fans, has been extraordinary. He's a steady hand guiding UM athletics. He earned AD of the year last year. Please welcome Blake James.
Thank you, Don. Thank you, David. Thanks to all of you for being here today. Obviously, it's an exciting day for University of Miami Athletics. Before we start, I do want to do a few other thank yous. As David touched on, my boss, President Frank, has just been a great supporter of me from his first day here on campus. He's told me he understands the importance of athletics to the university mission and has always been supportive of me and all of our efforts. I also would like to recognize some of our community leaders that are here with us today. It's through our partnerships with all of you that we're able to do so many things. So I want to welcome City of Miami Mayor Francis Suarez and Coral Gables Commissioners Vince Lago, Mike Mena, and Pat Keon. So thanks to all of you for being here with us. It's an exciting day. What a way to start the new year, and one that I don't know that any of us would have anticipated. But we cannot be more excited to introduce our new head football coach today. But before I do, let me once again express our sincere gratitude and admiration for Mark Richt and what he did for our football program and for our university. Mark returned to Coral Gables 3 years ago to get us back on track and rebuild our foundation. He did that and more. Mark's selflessness in always putting you first has elevated who we are as a program and left us in a strong position moving forward. On Sunday morning when Mark Richt called to inform me that he was retiring, and after my initial shock, my thoughts turned to our players and to Manny Diaz. The young men in our program had already gone home for their winter break, but I spent enough time around them to know that they would not only bounce back after hearing the news of Coach Richt's retirement, but they would fully embrace my first and only choice as their new head coach. Let me briefly take you through the events on Sunday. After Mark called to tell me he was stepping down, I immediately reached out to President Frank and to David Epstein, Chair of our Athletics Committee, and relayed Mark's decision. As I gathered my thoughts on who would be best to move our program forward, Manny Diaz was at the top of my list. I texted Manny to see if he was in Miami. Ironically, he was using the time to interview potential coaches for his staff at Temple. I then called and informed Manny of Mark's decision and asked if he'd like to be considered for the job. We agreed to meet Sunday afternoon and spent some time discussing the state of the program, his plans for how to get us back on track, and our plan for the ensuing hours. We agreed to meet again that evening. After consultation with key members of the Miami family, including President Frank, we later offered Manny the job and were quickly able to come to agreement on a contract. I do want to take a moment to acknowledge Temple University and its football team, as losing Manny just a few weeks after bringing him on board must surely be difficult for the outstanding young men in their football program and for the athletic leadership. Athletic Director Pat Kraft handled the difficult situation with professionalism and class, and I'm confident that he will find another outstanding coach for the Owls. Manny's not our new head coach because he is a graduate of Miami Country Day or because his family's long history in our city. Manny's not our new head coach because he was our outstanding defensive coordinator for 3 years, leading our defense to national acclaim. Manny's not our head coach because so many of our players would run through a wall for him. Manny's also not our head coach because we knew we could move quickly, easily, or seamlessly with Manny. Manny Diaz is our head coach because he's the right man at the right time, and he has the vision competing for conference and national championships. The 2019 season marks 22 years for Manny in college coaching, rising through the ranks from a graduate assistant at his alma mater, Florida State, to stints at North Carolina State, Middle Tennessee, Mississippi State, Texas, Louisiana Tech, before coming to Coral Gables 3 years ago. He has learned the game under legendary coaches such as Bobby Bowden, Mac Brown, Mark Richt. I have absolute confidence that the U will be back, and back quickly. We will work hard, play hard, and represent our world-class university with class and pride. We are honored that Manny has decided to come home, and on behalf of the entire Miami community, I want to welcome back Manny, his wife Steph, their sons Colin, Gavin, and Manny. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming the 25th head coach at the University of Miami, Manny Diaz.
Thank you, Blake, for that wonderful introduction. Thank you all for being here. Happy New Year. Happy New Year. It's actually January 2nd, 2019, and I had to look it up. 35 years to the day that the University of Miami won its first national championship against Nebraska. And for the 9-year-old kid who was up past his bedtime, watching Kenny Calhoun bat that ball down, and watch the Canes storm the field. The fact that I'm here standing in front of you now as a head coach at the University of Miami, if you need more evidence that this is a God story, that's it. And then when you combine the, let's just say, unusual events of this past weekend, certainly I believe that God's hand was in this, and I just first and foremost want to thank him for the opportunity to stand in front of you today. I certainly want to acknowledge my family, starting my wife Stephanie, who's been with me every step of the way in this crazy ride. And when you think the ride is crazy, if you think you've had all the crazy you can handle, crazy has a way of saying, watch this. So, but my boys, Colin, Gavin, Manny, my parents, everyone who is a part of raising me to the man I am today. This is an unusual thing. I've got to give such a great deal of thanks to the administration here at the University of Miami, obviously starting with President Frank, who has set a vision that I've come to learn over the last 3 years of making the University of Miami an elite institution in all of its endeavors. I certainly want to thank David Epstein and the entire Board of Trustees for their support, but it goes beyond that. The timely action, what Blake explained, the timely action, as coaches we pride ourselves on being able to make quick adjustments. Okay, so there were some quick adjustments happening on Sunday, and a lot of people who woke up on Sunday morning thinking that this was an easy day, it's right before New Year's, kind of what could possibly happen today? Don't ask the question, because normally it does. So their ability to make this happen in short order was really important, especially given the situation at Temple. And speaking about making adjustments, I have to thank Blake James and Jen Strawley both. One, for having the faith in me to do this job with excellence, but then secondly, for their understanding of the need to move quickly given the situation that was going on at Temple. And to that point, I have to recognize President Englert and Dr. Pat Kraft, the athletic director at Temple, one for believing in me enough to offer me my first head coaching opportunity. When I woke up Sunday morning, as Blake mentioned, I was putting together a staff to lead Temple to a championship. And I want to mention this because I got this a lot in the last month, where people would come up to me and my family, and they would kind of wink, and they would say, "You'll be back. We know you'll be back. Congratulations on getting Temple, but we know you'll be back." And it's very important to understand that we went to Temple knowing that we would not be back. For two reasons. One, we could never do our job at Temple with excellence if it was always with the mentality of looking somewhere else. That's just not the way that you have success in the coaching profession. And second, I had every confidence in Mark Richt that it was going to bounce back from this past season, turn this thing around. And there was all signs were pointing to him having a very long and successful career at his alma mater. So we took the Temple job full speed ahead to make Temple as great as Temple could be. For what happened on Sunday, there was a series of events, so many things that all had to happen in proper sequence. If any of those things would have been out of order, right now I'd be the head coach at Temple. There's simply no script for what took place on Sunday. So that said, I do want to apologize, especially to the players at Temple. I apologize for not being to be with you and be able to execute the vision that I laid out for our chance for success. However, in the short time that I was there and just being around the guys and understanding the culture in that locker room and the talent in that locker room, I have every confidence that that team understands that they're built to win. The next head coach at Temple University is walking into a situation due to the many men who have come and worked hard for that school to succeed. And under Dr. Kraft's leadership, I have no question that Temple will be in good hands and competing for championships. I'd like to thank all the outstanding head coaches throughout my career that I've had the opportunity to work for. Every one of them teaching me something a little bit differently to allow me that when I finally had this opportunity to craft my own philosophy to give myself the best chance for success. But more than any, I have to thank Mark Richt. He came to his alma mater 3 years ago, and he leaves this place in much better shape than when he found it. 30 yards to my left sits the Carol Soffer indoor practice facility. In my mind, there's no way that that's there today. There's no way that that's a reality without the effort of Mark Richt. And that was no small thing. That was no small endeavor. And when you're trying to lead a football team and coach with excellence and going through all the things that he had to do to make that thing not just be a reality, but to make it to be first class and the best in the country, that was an amazing achievement and something that the university will forever benefit from his efforts. His selfless leadership was an example to everyone on our coaching staff, and the players knew that it was their heart that he was really after. He cares so much for the school and his program, and to be honest, he's quite simply the best man I've ever worked for. His wife, Catherine, was an amazing friend and mentor to everyone in our program. They will always be Hurricanes. Now, 52 weeks ago, we were in a New Year's Day 6 game. 52 weeks ago. Obviously, this year at the University of Miami, we had a setback. Things can change quickly in football, in both directions, as we've seen. And as all successful people know, success is not always linear. The way to grow is not always linear. I could call up different examples. Obviously, we just had the playoff. We all saw Notre Dame walk out of Hard Rock 13 months ago with their tail between their legs. This year, they were in the top 4 teams in college football, according to the Playoff Football Committee. Clemson University, under Dabo Swinney, in Dabo's 3rd year, they won 6 games. It took a reboot at Clemson. They haven't won less than 10 since, and they've certainly been competing for championships. So there is precedent for things changing quickly in the world of college football. Okay? For that to happen, though, there has to be accountability. Okay? If we're going to be who we say we are, and we're going to hold our players accountable for their actions, then we know as coaches that we have to be held by the same account. And what happened this year was obviously not good enough at the University of Miami. One of the hardest things I've ever had to do was I had to announce to the offensive staff that they would not be retained for the 2019, and I had to do the same thing with Coach Felder in the weight room. So immediately, the vision goes to the future, and my first task is to hire an outstanding staff that's ready to take Miami to another level, to the point where we are competing in the mix for the college football playoff every year. That will start with the offensive coordinator. That's certainly the most important hire. I have been really amazed, humbled, and can't say it any more than this, excited about the candidates who have come to approach me for the interest to want to coach at the University of Miami. This is a place where people want to be. People understand the potential that is currently right now sitting in our locker room and the potential that can be recruited to this school in a very short radius. Great coaches want to be at UM. Probably right now, I would say I've got 3 finalists for that position, and I will tell you this, the guy in 4th place would be amazing. That's how excited I am for that. The timing of when it'll happen is when it's going to happen. I am not interested in it happening fast. I'm interested in it happening right. It's going to be the person that's the right fit for the program. There are other outside sort of factors at play in terms of when certain people will be available, but the hire will be announced when the hire is right. All that matters to me is that we get the right person in the right position. Certainly everybody wants to talk about what the style of play is. And what I envision is the same thing that we accomplished when we came here 3 years ago defensively, is now we look to set the tone for the entire football team. And if I could sum it up in one sentence, our responsibility is to play like the Miami Hurricanes. When we got here 3 years ago, defensively, everybody wanted to talk about the transition from a 3-4 defense to a 4-3 defense, as if that would be the magic pill that would change the issues and raise the stature of the Miami defense. And we set a tone early with our players that that would not be the case. Certainly it's our job as coaches, schematically, to put them in what we believe is the best chance for them to succeed. But we knew it was more than that. We knew there was a style of play. a style of play that was representative of the great teams, the great coaches that have come here in the past. So what should the Miami Hurricanes look like? Well, the very first thing we establish on defense is we're going to be tough. We will not be out-hit. We will not be out-toughed. Miami is always known for its great speed. We're going to play fast, okay? We're going to use our speed. We're going to let our athletes go, all right? And then lastly, we're going to have fun. We're going to play with passion. This is a tough city. This is a passionate city. The fans of the Miami Hurricanes, they want to see their teams play with toughness, and they want to see their teams play with passion. When you come see Miami play, it should look like there's two teams on the field, and one is having infinitely much more fun than the other team is. Now, there's a lot of hard work that goes into doing that. Okay, there's a lot of hard work that goes into doing that, and we all know that winning is certainly more fun than the alternative. So when you start to put that to an offensive style of play, again, number one, we still have to be defined by our toughness. Our toughness will always start up front. Our toughness will be our ability to run the football. But toughness, when you think about all the Miami greats, the toughness to make the tough catch, the toughness to make the tough throw, and you do it in the toughest games. That's what made Miami Miami. When you walk through the hallway and you see all the great names of the guys that have done it here in the past, that's what they did. They made the toughest plays in the toughest games. And after we talked about up front, it starts next with the quarterback position. Certainly we have to get the quarterback position fixed. We have some young guys on our campus who have shown flashes, who have shown that they have ability. But you don't win at the University of Miami with flashes, and you don't win at the University of Miami with potential. You have to perform. So certainly everybody will be given a clean slate. We will start from scratch with what we have on our campus. And at the same time, we will look under every nook and cranny across the entire country to make sure that we are best positioned at the quarterback room to attack the 2019 football season. We will have a fantastic offensive coordinator, a great quarterback coach, and a great scheme. But first and foremost, none of that will win without great culture. We have got to get the culture of the football team united between all three phases of the team. Defensively, the core is set. The core is in place. I will be making one more hire on that side of the ball soon, which I'll announce quickly, okay? But I do want to express how much I trust and respect Efraim Banda, Jess Simpson, Jonathan Packey, and Mike Rump to continue to hold Miami to a high standard. All of those men have amazing futures in front of them. All of those men have a chance to lead a defense on their own one day, or I'll take it a step further, to be a head coach one day. I think that highly of that room. We will be making a change in the strength room. That hire will also be announced soon. I felt it was very important that our current players in our locker room, when they return after winter break, that they feel that they're stepping back into a different program. At its heart, the things that Mark Richt set in place, the heart, the value, the character that matters in this program, that will all stay the same. But our tactics in terms of how we're going to achieve success, that's going to be different. And I want our players to understand things are different now. Everyone in this building has to own 7-6, starting with me. I'll say that one more time. Everybody has to own 7-6. There's not a blame. There's not a blame to the people who were not retained on the staff as if it was all their fault. If you wore a U on the side of your helmet last year, or you wore it over your heart on a coaching shirt, we are all responsible for the 7-6. Therefore, it is all of our responsibility to do everything we can to make sure that that never happens again. So I do not want to have a tone set where certain guys can think that they have status. Certain guys can think that, well, that wasn't on me. That is not true. It was on all of us. Everyone returns after winter break with no status. Everyone returns 0-0, which is the great thing about college football. We live in a different world every year. The 2018 football team is over. It's finished. They will never be back in the room again. In about a week and a half, when the team returns, the 2019 Miami Hurricane football team will be born. And what it does from that point on will be decided by their next step after that first initial meeting. It will be very important then in our recruiting aspects that we stay true to who we are and our identity. We will always be defined by how well we recruit Dade, Broward, and Palm Beach County, pushing out to the state of Florida line through I-4. We will recruit nationally to find the players that we cannot find inside that footprint. We have to make sure that the high school football coaches in South Florida know that we're honest and true with our evaluations, that the guys that can make it happen on the fields down here, we believe can make it happen for the Miami Hurricanes. It's always been that way. What the recruiting services rank them is of no consequence to us. There's a million guys that have their name up on this wall that were not highly rated by recruiting services. If you can play in South Florida, you can play in college football. That's been proven over and over again. And that goes back to all the way to the youth football programs down here in South Florida. Youth football is where it all starts. Under the leadership of different guys on our staff, including Coach Bonda, we've done an amazing job of touching those communities, creating great relationships with the youth football coaches down here in South Florida. That will continue, and if anything else, that will accelerate. We want to make sure that from the first time you put on a helmet down here in South Florida, that you bleed orange and green, because those are the next great players that we'll all be watching in the college football playoffs from time to time, to come. So like I said, this is an outstanding day for me, an outstanding day for my family. I'm truly honored to be here, humbled to be here, to be quite honest with you all. But more than anything, excited about what's next. These press conferences, things like this, we have to do this. But on 240 days from now, I don't know if anybody's remember anything that's said in this press conference today when we're up in Orlando. So with that, again, thank you all for being here. Happy New Year, and go Canes. Thank you.
All right. Well, I'm fired up. Everybody else is. Again, Happy New Year. Thank you to everybody for coming. We're going to open it up for Q&A at this point. We have Alex and David in the aisles with microphones, so if our members of the media want to raise their hand, we'll find you. And if you have questions for anybody here at the table, just fire away, and we'll start with Will.
Manny, congratulations, first of all. This is the second time you've done this in a month, so I know it's kind of been surreal for you. If you could just tell us a little bit more about how this stretch has gone, and just back to taking the Temple job, what makes you feel you're ready for this step of being a head coach, of making that step from coordinator to head coach and succeeding?
Well, I think all the preparation you've had throughout your career, and that's where, again, you lean back on all the different people that you work for, different people you be able to learn from, and when you get put in this situation, you know you're ready. Now, that doesn't mean you have all the answers, but that's why you got to surround yourself with a great staff. That's why when you take any job, you have to make sure that you've got great leadership above you, people that you can lean on when things arise that you may not have the answer for. And but more than anything, there's just a belief that, you know, I always like to say, God doesn't call the prepared; He prepares the called. And I think there's some merit in that.
Manny, congratulations. Technically, welcome back, I guess, as well. Clearly, at times this year, there was a disconnect between the offense and the defense. And I know you said it's a clean slate, but at the same time, and there'll be changes to culture. You're in an unusual spot. You're in a new job, but you understand all the personalities that are going to be retained in that room. How do you fix whatever it was that was going on between the offensive players and defensive players this season?
Well, I'll go back to what happened in 2016 as an example. It's not so much fix, it's do. And what we have to do is we hire a great staff, we set the parameters, and we set the standard. And again, I'll speak to the experience what we did defensively in 2016. We said we're going to raise incredibly high standards. Okay, we're going to play defense by this Miami Hurricane way, and that's all we're going to worry about. We never spoke of what happened in the past. Never spoke on it because, in reality, it didn't matter. And so what we're going to find out, say, this is how we're going to do things going forward. We're going to put you at a very high standard in terms of your work ethic, in terms of your toughness, and in terms of your accountability. And let's just see what happens. Because part of the issue is we start to lean back on how talented we are. And maybe we are talented. Maybe we're not talented. Don't really know. It was very similar in 2016. I wasn't really worried about how talented we were. I was just worried about how we played. And we walked in that defense room and we said, we're going to run to the football and we're going to tackle. And everyone said, but coach, there's got to be something else. I said, that's what we're going to do. We're going to run to the football, we're going to tackle. We're going to play tough and violent. If you do those things, don't worry about anything else. And the kids found success in that. That's why if there was a magic play that we could run to solve an issue, there'd be 130 teams in the playoff because everybody would run the same magic play and no one would ever lose a game. Okay? So there has to be something more to it than the scheme. So it's very important that we set the culture. We will not talk about last year and what happened because, to be honest, 2018, 2017 had no impact on 2018, just as I envision 2018 will have no impact on 2019.
Congratulations, Manny. You talk about there not being a magic pill to fix the offense and some of the issues that you guys had, and I know you said it's not just the scheme, but there are obviously a lot of high school kids who play the spread offense, and that's what they're familiar with for years now down here. Can we say that that's what you guys will be doing in 2019, playing more of a spread attack?
Manny, the thing that always pops in my mind is the word spread has been dragged around to the point where it's so spread out, I don't even know, as a defense coordinator, what the word spread means anymore. Because there's so many different styles of spread offense. But what I will tell you is the word I want to be is cutting edge. The word I want to be is modern. The word I want to be, or the idea that I want to be is that an offense that creates problems for the defense, that puts defense in conflict, that presents issues before the snap, during the snap, that forces mistakes. The game is decided, and a big part of why we are what we are on defense is because we are structurally designed to make the offense make a mistake. That's why we create the negative plays that we make. Now we have to be sound enough to not give up the big plays, but to think that you can ask your kids to just to be right all the time and be perfect, that's very unrealistic. Sometimes it's more fun when the other guy messes up for you. So I think part of our job as a coach is, number one, demand great execution, so we can out-execute someone, but at the same time, what can we do schematically to make those other guys mess up?
Manny, right here in the top.
Right here. How in shock would that little boy from 35 years ago be that he's sitting here today as the head coach of the Hurricanes?
Yeah, it'd be hard to explain if you came back through the time machine, but somehow it fits. You know what? After the initial shock and of this whole thing happening, I feel very confident that I'm in the right spot.
Mike?
Manny, you cited some of the other programs and their turnaround. Is there any part of you preaching patience, or it's like we're going to go at it right now?
Our most important job is to find out how good we can be in 2019, and let's go do that. We're at the University of Miami, okay? We have to hold them to a high standard. But again, I continue to refer back to 2016 because it's current and it fits. We told the defense, we're going to hold you to this high standard. We did not say we're going to finish, our goal is to finish 20th in the country in defense. I just wanted to find out how good those kids were. So here's what we're going to do. We're putting our standards here. Let's go play. And however good that ends up, it is what it is. And I think as a fan of a program, I think if you're in the stands and you're watching those guys play and you're saying, these guys are giving everything they got, I think this is whatever we are, I think this is as good as it can be. I think everybody respects that. But I think it would be hard to watch our football team this season, not just on one side of the ball, overall, to watch the 2018 Hurricanes and say, there's some meat left on that bone. There's more to it than what we saw. And our job as coaches is to get it all out.
All right.
Manny, congratulations.
Thank you, Jim.
I'm kind of curious, have you spoken to Mark Richt? And if you have, what was that conversation like? What advice did he offer? And if you haven't, what do you think that conversation will be like?
We've had communication, and again, we have a great personal relationship. We have a great professional relationship. Our families are very close. He's a person that I will be leaning on for advice, in the future, because I have a lot of respect for who he is and what he's done. And so, like I said, he'll always be a big part of our success here at Miami.
Coach Brandon O'Doy, Football Hotbed. I was curious, the conversations with Mike and Shaq, can you take us through how those went, how quickly they developed with your previous relationship, and just what their feelings were when you told them that it was going to be you leading forward?
Yeah, well, you'd have to ask them 100% what their feelings are, because I couldn't answer that for them, but certainly that was odd. It was. We had been talking all fall, and then make sure that they had all the best information they could imaginable to make the right decision. And then certainly, I was leaving, and then certainly the fact coming back, and but I'll say this about both those guys. Those guys are Canes, and they're winners. And what they wanted more than anything is that they want Miami to win. They really want Miami to win. And both guys, and I'm not trying to single them out. Zach McLeod, you can put them in the same boat. they want to be the guy in the locker room, and that's what they realize right now. They want to be that guy. They want to be the guy. All the former players and all what they've talked about, that Miami's always been a program where player accountability has been so crucial to Miami's success. And those guys have seen it. They saw it this year, and they realized that they could do more in terms of holding the guys, especially the younger guys in the locker room, accountable. So I'll tell you this: not only are we excited about them coming back, but if I was another guy in the locker room, I'd be ready for our seniors, especially for those guys, because they are getting ready to come back and set the standard on how we're going to work. Forget about playing the games in the fall. How we're going to work the very first time we get in the weight room, very first time we get in the off-season program.
Susan?
Congratulations. First part of the question is, have you talked to Joe Jackson yet, and what's your sense regarding him returning? And then the second part is, will the defensive coordinators still be co-coordinators, Bonda and Patke? If not, who's your new defensive coordinator?
Had communication with Joe Jackson. I don't know where that's going to end up. In terms of the defensive staff, until we get the final hire announced, I'll be able to kind of go throughout the dynamics of how that room will fit. But again, I'm blessed. I've gotten multiple coordinators, talent-wise, in that room. I've got multiple guys that can do the job. Thank you, Susan.
Got time for a couple more questions? Christy?
Manny, congratulations. You've touched on, obviously, what it was like growing up in Miami, watching this program, but the significance today to have a Cuban-American coach leading this program. What does that mean to you?
Well, you've heard me say many times before, Christy, this is Miami's program. And the University of Miami should reflect the city of Miami. We should reflect it in our style of play. We should reflect it in the way we carry ourselves throughout the community. And we should hopefully reflect it in the way that we win. So I think certainly, me being here today is just a part of that. But again, my job right now is to make sure that I'm the best man for the job. And again, I'm appreciative that Blake put his faith in me, regardless of where I'm from. But it does mean a lot for sure to represent my community, to lead the Miami Hurricanes.
Manny, you mentioned the chain of events that took place for this to work out so perfectly. Just curious, how close were you to getting on the plane to go into Temple?
Well, my plan was that there was really nothing I could do in Philadelphia until after the new year. Okay, so we came back with the football team on Friday, and then most of the work that I could accomplish, which is really not any different than what I'm doing right now, is you're doing through the phone. So you're on the phone all day. You're talking to different people, trying to put it all together for up there. So it was not something that I had to be physically in Philadelphia for until after the first. And then the idea was for me to get the new staff, together on the second, or basically today, up in Philadelphia. So it was just by chance that I happened to be in the area when the anthill got kicked.
Will?
Manny, you touched on it a bit, but in a broader sense, when a team struggles as they did last year as a program, some people get the sky is falling feel. Obviously, the year before, it was you had the 15 straight wins going into the year, all that stuff. How much closer do you think reality is to what this program can be starting next year? That stretch where the team was on that high, or a little bit of what we saw last year?
Well, I think as any coach, you would say you're closer to 2017. Because you're not that far off. I think the players believe that we're not that far off. And sometimes, like I said, sometimes it just takes a reboot. And that could have happened without a staff change. Sometimes it just takes a reboot. Sometimes you just have a mix of guys where it just doesn't happen, So I don't think there's a player in our locker room right now that believes that we are what we just put on tape over 13 games. Unfortunately, our record says that we are, So the only thing that helps is that it's a new year. I mean, the actual changing of the calendar year is symbolic but significant. And we have a chance now to decide what we are. That, to me, is the most important thing. Who are we now going forward? And that's my opportunity to define that by our style of play, opportunity to hire an offensive coordinator that can define that, through what he does schematically. And then really our players' choice by how they choose to work, how they choose to be accountable to each other, and how they choose to play.
We'll do Christy and then two more
Manny, you mentioned obviously Zach and Shaq and Mike, just kind of the leadership roles that they're going to take. Have you had a chance to catch up with any of the guys on the offensive side of the ball? Have any of them reached out? And you can see those are going to be the guys that you're going to be counting on from that side of the room.
I certainly have, because the first thing that's of great importance is that all the guys in the locker room understand that I'm their head coach. And this was not an offense versus defense thing. This was just simply, like I said, this is the scenario in terms of how it shook down, and I'm here for all of them now. And what I think they saw culturally we had on defense, that now we have the opportunity to spread that throughout the entire locker room and throughout the entire football team. But I have spoken to DJ Dallas and Brevin Jordan. Been in contact with the quarterbacks, you know what I mean, and just to let them know, because the team is not all together, I was able to sort of send out a mass communication to everybody yesterday and present my numbers. So I've been getting all kinds of text messages from the guys. So it's hard when everyone's separate, but in a way, I think it's good. I think everybody needs to get away for a little bit and understand when we come back here in a week, it's on.
Hey, Manny. So obviously you came up with the turnover chain for defense. You got something for offense that is going to get those guys?
If it helps us score points, who knows what we'll have. But I will say this. Actually, like I said a month ago, the chain belongs to the University of Miami, but whatever it takes for our guys to play with passion, whatever it takes for our guys to have fun, whatever it takes for our guys to celebrate each other's accomplishments, which is really what it's all about, I'm for. And again, to get that energy and spark throughout our entire football team is something that I believe is a major goal of ours.
And we'll wrap up the Q&A portion with Susan.
Manny, there have been a lot of recent, actually going back a lot of the season, difficult situations regarding N'Kosi Perry, and there are all kinds of rumors saying that he might be suspended to start 2019. Because Mark Richt is not here, is anything that happened before moot now? Is it a clean slate? Or if there was a super secret suspension or something, does that continue? What's the situation with N'Kosi?
I certainly couldn't address super secret suspensions, but it sounds like anyway. It's obviously very important that our football team has discipline and great accountability. Anytime there is a change, the players do know that there is a clean slate, in terms of how they behave and act, and especially at that position, right? I mean, to be the quarterback at the University of Miami, that's no small thing. That's in this town. You got to have thick skin, and you got to have a way about you now that. All I have to do is look at the names that have done it here in the past. There was a time we called this QBU. And that can happen again. So N'Kosi understands, and all the guys understand that everything they do, how you do anything is how you do everything, and their behavior at all times reflects their ability and desire to be the quarterback at the University of Miami. So in some ways, yes, everybody understands that what you do now is what matters the most, and certainly if there were other issues that from the past that were lingering, those would have to still always be addressed.
Great. Thank you, guys. Don's going to wrap us up, but because of the well-deserved standing ovation, I think some of our photographers missed the jersey photo, so we will be restaging that afterwards. So, Don?
Thank you, Carter. I want to take a moment to thank a lot of these people, especially everybody in this room to begin with. But I see people that have been donors and supporters and believers in this program my entire life. And I don't want you to ever think that we don't appreciate it, because we do. And we can't say everybody's name, and we can't say what everybody's done, but you know, and we know. And my advice to you is, or suggestion to you is, never give up on this University of Miami. Never. The decisions that have been made here today are for the benefit of this University of Miami and this program. We have just hired a man that has fought and clawed and worked and deserved and has earned this job at the University of Miami. Our athletic department is led by the best people in the country that care for these student athletes. Above everything else, every waking moment is about the student athlete. And when someone gives you the opportunity to stand up for this University of Miami and tell them what a great place this is, and what a great institution this is, and what great coaches we have, and how much we care for our student athletes, do it. And do it every single time. Blake James, thank you for making a great hire. Manny Diaz, yes. David, thank you for being here again. I just saw you in New York and you're following me around.
This is it, though.
Okay. Manny Diaz, we wish you the best. Everyone is here for you, and ask for help if you need it. And we are so proud of you and your family and what you've accomplished to get here. Words can't express it. We will wait for the book. Go Canes and Happy New Year.